I was about to say it's not difficult to tell a story and win a contract, but actually it is, but it's doable. So if you got the right people together, anybody can put the right spin and answer the right questions with the right terminology and go win a contract. Darren Whiddon, I run DKW Consulting. Our tagline is connecting success. That kind of leads into what we do. We work with small businesses, typically in the defense sector. We work with some international mid-size businesses, and we help them talk to the right people within the U.S. government, with other small businesses, with large primes, basically helping them find opportunities to grow and expand their business.
So now let me ask you a question, because how do you get that job?
The one I'm doing now?
Mm-hmm. The one that you just described.
Yeah. Well, that's a long story.
I mean, we've got an hour and a half.
Well, I mean, in my personal, my history on it, I swear it started with Army ROTC at Florida State. I mean, if you truly walk it back, that's when I kind of got started in the business. I commissioned out of Florida State, and this is where it gets fuzzy. I always get my dates messed up. I think it was 94, and went into the Army as an armor officer with the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. I did that for 4 years and left there and went into the inactive reserves, where I did a brief stint on the civilian side as a scheduler and a project manager in the pulp and paper industry. It was after 9/11, the reserves called me and said, hey, we'd like you to go into a drilling status. We're short on people. And I voluntarily came off of inactive reserves and went back working with the reserves with a medical service training unit of all things. Being an armor officer, that was a perfect fit, right? So did that for a few years, and my civilian career was really starting to move. So I decided that it was time to stop playing Army. I think I was at about the 10-year mark then, and so I put my paperwork in and said, hey, it's been fun, but I'm done. And they called me like a week later and said, I'm sorry, but you just got activated and transferred to a unit in New York, and you're going to Iraq for a year. So I packed my bags, and it was interesting. We were part of I don't remember exactly what it was called now, but it was basically, they were putting 10-man teams together that would go to Iraq and embed with the Iraqi battalions. And depending on what level they were at, you would help them get their equipment, you'd train them on it. Once they were fully trained, you take them out and ran operations with them. So I did that for about a year. That was 2004, 2005 timeframe. And when I came back and actually went back to work in like 2006, the pulp and paper industry wasn't that exciting. So an opportunity popped up with a defense company in my hometown, and I had a friend that worked there, and he was like, hey, you do this project management stuff, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, and you were in the Army, you should come work for us. We need a program manager. We just won this large IDIQ contract, and program management is required, and we signed up for it, and we don't even know what that is. So why don't you come help us with that? And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I transitioned to really into the defense segment at that time. And yeah, small business, great business, made a lot of money, but it was a new thing that the Army was asking for. The Army had program managers, or the government had program managers. They wanted their their suppliers had the same. So I walked in and took what I had learned with the Army and working project management on the construction and industrial side, and got to know my counterparts at the government really well. So, well, what do you guys do? What does this look like? What do you expect? And they told me. I said, okay. So we set something up to kind of mirror it. With it being a small company, I was the program manager. I kind of did a lot of operations as well, and I did some business development. So that's kind of what set being able to do this into motion. Now, with that said, do you have to have my specific skill set and background to be able to run a company like this? No, but it helped because there I worked with a small business, and then we were purchased by Kimmering out of the UK. So we became a mid to large size business. Plus, now you have international ties because they had businesses all over Europe, and they also had 8 to 9 business units in the U.S. So that kind of like greatly broadened the horizon. And then several years later, we were purchased by Nammo out of Norway, which opened up a whole nother parameter of companies and contacts and businesses and opportunities. So that kind of helped round out the experience, and I'd say put some additional tools in the toolbox to be able to go in and talk to small businesses and understand what they do, how they do it, identify what the strengths and the weaknesses are, and then target areas that they could approach.
Is there a particular type of small business that you have experience working with? I know a lot of people like to dump things into buckets. Is there like an industry or sector that you prefer or that you have more experience in?
The easy button are pyrotechnics, explosives, and munitions,
Okay.
because that's pretty much what I worked in the entire time. Now, with that said, we have been trying to diversify a bit. So I actually have a company that does, I'm drawing a blank, fluid processing. I don't want to
Okay.
say water treatment. So they do fluid processing on for the Navy on the surface ships,
Okay.
DDG, aircraft carriers, you name it. So we kind of expanded the aperture there initially, and now we also work with a company that does data aggregation and digital engineering,
Okay.
digital twinning for the defense. We've kind of taken the basics of, this is how you look at opportunities, and have been able to expand that over the last year or so.
Okay. Now let's when you talk about like your experiences and being acquired by 2 different international companies, and you start off when they were small, do you know any of the things they did to help them become acquired? Like what led up to that?
The first time, no,
Okay.
because I was not high enough up in the organization to
Okay.
really see what was going on. The second time, yes, they went out and hired a company that specialized in mergers and acquisitions to to help them put together a package and to approach numerous companies that should be looking for that type of company to acquire. They
Okay.
have their own big, massive network,
Right.
um, and that is a very intensive, interesting endeavor.
Okay.
I, I was high enough the second time around that I actually got to fully engage on it, and it was probably 3 months of heavy lifting just to put all
Mm.
the information together and put the presentations together and whatnot. And then we had 18 different companies that were interested in us. So we ended up doing 18 management briefs to, I mean, it was all different sizes. There were hedge fund guys, there were large businesses, small businesses, mid-size, international, U.S. It was across the board. And, you know, by like number 8, I could just stand up and not even look at the slide and talk it. And matter of fact, the company that ended up buying us, I was 10 minutes into my one piece 45-minute spiel, and the computer crashed and everything fell off the screen. And, you know, the company that was managing the whole thing, like they're looking at each other like in a panic. You know, this was probably like the 12th one by this time.
Sure.
So I was like, not a problem. I'm like, you guys got hard copies in front of you. Just flip the page so and so. And I started walking around the table, talking to the guys, pointing on their, you know, the paperwork, you know, talking them through the slides. It actually went better than having the damn, you know,
Presentation. Right.
yeah, it was more.
It sounds like it, more interactive already.
Yeah.
Seems like.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was funny when we got to the end of it, and they said, okay, we'll get everything back up and running. We got into my segment. Let's have a break, and then we'll come back together. And they all left, and the guy was running. He was like, well, if I'd known you could pull that off, we'd have pulled the plug, you know. Like, you planned it, and everyone would have been able to do it, you know. It was
right.
just that spur of the moment. I was going back to my armored cav training when I was a lieutenant in the Army. You know, every plan's great until you make first contact.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I like Mike Tyson's. You know, he said you got a plan to get punched in the face. I like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. I like that one. So we know they hired a company, but did they specialize in anything, like the first company that led to being acquired? Were they getting IDIQ contracts? Were they getting certain types of vehicles? Like, we're talking about from the business standpoint, not that they hired someone, but more of what types of contracts and vehicles, industries did they target that led to their success?
I'm not understanding your question on that one.
So, right, why did someone want to buy them?
Oh, gotcha. There was the business was struggling at a time when the acquisition was going through, but there was a history of success, large IDIQs, very diversified, and probably bigger than anything else is there was a massive manufacturing footprint, which allowed for someone to come in and, you know, if they had something new that they wanted to do, there was real estate to do that, which I think was the big draw for this one international company, because they knew they had things that they were doing overseas that they wanted to do in the U.S. and that was a fit.
Okay.
And honestly, in this world, in this business, that is a struggle. There are very limited places, companies that have a footprint that allows for handling of a lot of energetics or explosives.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense there. That's interesting. So would you say that they did foreign military sales? Is that what that's called? No. Or is it international sales? What would you, I guess it is international. It's not foreign.
Mostly, our business was mostly selling directly to the U.S. government. Now,
right.
we did have some foreign military sales, and we did have several direct commercial sales internationally.
Okay.
And I mean, as far as the foreign entity buying the U.S. company, it was it was to allow for more production of their items in the U.S., which allow for an easier direct sale to the U.S. government.
Okay. So then their product is now made in the U.S.
A lot of it, yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. See, now, you know, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay. So now tell me, so you were the program manager, and then what roles did you move up to?
Initially, I was a program manager. I had 3 programs. The whole program management thing went so smoothly that the president was like, "Hey, we need to hire some more of you guys." So we went out and recruited a couple of others. So I think at the time the corporation had like 10 to 11 programs.
Okay.
So we hired 3 program managers, and it was like 2 or 3 months later, president's like, "I'm tired of all these people coming asking me questions. I'm going to put you in charge of them since you're the one that started this thing." So
Okay.
that was the first promotion. The company we were with at the time,
I mean,
Cameron,
excuse me one
was
second. What do they call that title that they gave you? Right. Like, listen, remember, we want to teach other people how to be successful. So after I'm the little guy, I hire you as my program manager. I hired 10 program managers. I'm like, okay, now I'm seeing myself as that boss saying,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. Right. What do I call that person, Darren? So I know who
Well,
this is.
when you're a small business and you really don't want to pay someone to do that type work, you change their title from program manager to manager of programs.
Boom. That's what I Okay, I like that. Okay. All
So,
right.
yeah, okay, it became manager of programs. And then once we were acquired by a larger company and there were more funds available, that transitioned to director of programs.
Ah, okay.
And we also they acquired a couple of additional business units in the U.S. and they rolled them up under our company. So I actually had 3 different sites that I was managing at one time. So somewhere around that time frame, it changed from director of programs to VP of programs. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I did that for about 10, 11, 12 years. And we had a new president come in, and we were doing one of our one-on-ones, and he's like, "So, how's it going?" And I was like, "Man, I'm like, I need to change. This program management stuff is like it's wearing me out. Everyone's always needy. The government needs something. Internally, they need something. Like, I need a break." He goes, "Well,
Uh-huh.
have you ever thought of business development?" And I'm like, "Well, like the way we're kind of set up, the program managers are responsible for business development." And he goes, "Well, yeah." He said, "But you're responsible for business development on like maintaining your business and winning your contracts again or similar type contracts." Because I'm talking about figuring out what's the next thing we should be doing, looking at that kind of work. And I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I transitioned into a business development role. The first time it only lasted like 12 months, and the program management side of things didn't go well. So they're like, "I need you to go back and run programs again."
And so
Okay.
that's funny. So for people that are listening to this that are in a commercial world that are not familiar with the government world, can you just tell them program manager, what does that mean? As easy as you could possibly put it.
As easy as you can possibly put it. You're basically responsible for the profit and loss for your specific programs. And when I say programs, if you're looking at a business that is in the defense world, they might have a contract to run pyrotechnic fusing, and they might have a contract to run grenades, missiles, bombs, things like that. Typically, each one of those would have a program manager that would manage that one small part of the business. In the civilian world, they typically call them project managers
Right.
because they're managing, specific projects.
Right. There you go. All right. So program manager equals project manager for those taking notes on this. All right. So you get
Yeah,
promoted.
and PMPs out there, all over the world are cringing right now because like you can't simplify it that much. Yeah. You're right.
No, I know. Well, again, this is a show where we're trying to educate the person. We're not here to, right. I think that one of the things that I'm known for, Darren, and you may not know this, is that when, when people come to me, and I've had some government people explain that, Eric, you can't say that because you got to say it's according to the FAR. I go, that's a really easy out for you to basically not explain nothing.
Right.
So
That's a great.
you get a defensible position to say, oh, go to the FAR.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be right or wrong. So you just say, go to the FAR. I'm okay with explaining to people in layman's terms something that, yes, is it 100% accurate? No, but it's 90% accurate.
Well, I've had them. I've had them be a little nicer to me in that, hey, go to FAR, da 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 da. I've even had them send me like a copy of it here,
Sure.
and then I read it and I call them back and I was like, okay, now can you tell me what that means?
Thank you. Right, exactly. Because
I think
because
I,
then like
I
that
see
does
what
not
it
that
says,
doesn't translate right. That did not explain anything. So no, I agree wholeheartedly. So now you're getting the BD. BD said lasts for about 12 months because the program's not good. You go back to program.
yep. Go back to programs, get everything lined back out, 12 to 18 months, and I'm kind of like, I like that BD thing. When am I going to get to go back over there? So eventually, what ended up happening is I took business development and programs and managed the entire organization, which it's a lot. But if you have good people underneath you, you got a good system set up, it's manageable. I liked it because there are a lot of synergies there. I used to joke when I was on the program side with our business development people that would go out and find this new program, this new contract. We just have to win this. This is great stuff. And you know, I was about to say it's not difficult to tell a story and win a contract, but actually it is. But it's doable. So if you got the right people together, anybody can put the right spin and answer the right questions with the right terminology and go win a contract. And typically, the way it happens is the business development team does this, and they win this nice contract, and they pop the champagne, everyone high fives, and then they hand it to program management and say, "Good luck." And then they
Right.
go work on something. So I always joke with our business development people. I say, "All right, so if you don't have 100% buy-in on our end that we should be doing this, this is a good program to go after. When we win it, the first thing we're going to do is make you a program manager and let you run it for the first 12 months
Mm.
until everything gets lined out, and then you can go back to business development." Um, yeah, that made people look at things a little bit differently. Which, I a lot of times I would joke and say that I was a terrible business development guy because I spent so much time in program management that when I'd look at opportunities, I could come up with 10 reasons why this is not a good idea to go after. But it gave me a different perspective on it, and it's kind of helped me honestly in the consulting side working with the government, because typically if I show up with a company and I say, hey, you guys need someone to do X, Y, and Z, or you've got this new solicitation coming out, and I know you've been struggling finding the right companies to build this or do this. I've got someone you should be looking at because of my history as program manager, working closely with all those people. When I bring someone to the table, they're like, "Yeah, well, they must be okay. Otherwise, Darren wouldn't be representing them."
Mm.
That's a two-edged sword, because a lot of times when businesses hire you, they want you to just bring them all the business that's available, and I typically don't do that. I try to help them help themselves. They're like,
Okay.
hey, we want to win so and so, and when we do a deep dive, I'm like, well, before you go down that road, you should probably invest in a couple of things, and you're going to need this person, and like I can help you win the business, but if you win it and you're not successful starting it up and running it, I'm like, you're not happy. The government's not happy. I'm definitely not going to be happy. I'm like, it's a lose, lose, lose for, everyone all the way around. So
tell us about that. What are some of those things that, because when people hear that, and I say the same thing, it's really easy to win business. It's hard to keep it, to be successful, to make it profitable, right? To do it right on time. I say that. What are some of the things that for you are, I say, red flags when you're working with a company and you go, I don't think this is a good fit? What are some of those things, red flags? Not for you as a company, but the customer is not a good fit for the company. Let me just be clear.
yeah, there's no easy answer on that one. To kind of explain that, we'll go through the process of how we bring new clients on.
Okay.
And, a lot of it is LinkedIn, word of mouth, running into people at conferences, being around the business a lot. People kind of know who you are. And so they know they want to go win some new business. So they're like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit to help us out. So we initially, have a few discussions on the front end, but there's typically always an on-site visit unless you've been around the company a long time and know them well, to take a good look at exactly how they're set up, what they do, the people that they have. Take a good look at contracts that they've held before to get an understanding for, what could be. And that kind of sets the framework for it. And I mean, I've had companies that wanted me to help them with business development to win new business, and we came in, we looked around, and it was like, well, I'd love to, but you really need some help in these couple of areas. Your quality world needs to be beefed up a little bit. You don't have any program management. If you go win a contract like this, it's going to like sink you day one, because you're not set up to be successful running that. So in that instance, we'll either try to engage and help them with some of the weaknesses, helping build the business, put the key pieces in place so that they can go and successfully win a contract, or we'll go find another company that specializes in those areas and say, hey, you should really hire these guys. Once you get to, this time frame, then we can go out and help you find some additional business, because you'll be successful doing it.
I like that. That's a great answer. That's a really good answer. That helps me a lot. And I think, would you say that a lot of the things that people are, when you say they don't have someone that can run a program, to simplify it, would that say be tied up to like the paperwork burden?
Somewhat.
Okay.
But, in my experience background, with the program management side, the way they were always successful, or most successful, is, you had a detailed, integrated master schedule, and you had an integrated master plan, which, if you hear those buzzwords, those are things that they ask for in large solicitations for IDIQ, 5-year extended contracts, things like that. And it was funny on the front end of it, when I was helping bid on these things. Initially, it was like, what are they talking about? What does this look like? What does that mean? And I'd actually go in and sit under the government and go, okay, well, what does right look like for an integrated master plan?
Right.
And then, well, and I'd get a bunch of buzzwords. So we kind of had to figure that out. So what was the question again?
You were talking about how program manager was most successful, and I was right.
So yeah, I mean, if they're not in a position where they can sit down and detail out a master schedule that says from A to Z, these are the things we're going to put in this place, these are the things we're going to do, these are the criteria we have to meet, this is our schedule in order to get to first article and be successful. if they can't show something like that, they've done in the past, or don't know what that looks like, that's the first big red flag.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's as simple as the right people are there. They just don't know what that looks like. And it's pretty easy to bring an example in and sit down and say, okay, well, this is what you should be doing. And they can go
Right.
with it. But in some cases, those people don't exist. And you need to help them build the right person internally, or you need to help them go out and recruit and find someone to plug in that understands what that should look like.
Okay. That's a good indication. I mean, that's really good. What are some other things on the program manager side that you think of to help companies be successful?
Well, you need to have what the government calls an IPT, an integrated product team.
Okay.
And that is basically, and this is the hard part about program management. In program management, you're responsible for everything, but you typically have no one that works directly for you. So that team would be made up of a quality engineer, a process engineer, maybe a product engineer, a buyer, someone from contracts, maybe someone from maintenance. And that's where it gets difficult for a small business. If you think about that, a small business that has 3 or 4 programs, and you need to have all those people engaged on those programs, that takes up a lot of time, takes up a lot of bandwidth. And when I first started doing this at the small company that I started with, I'll never forget like the first 3 or 4 months when I'd have a meeting every week, talk about this is our plan, this is where we're at, what issues do we have, and I'd have 3 or 4 people in there that was just like, I don't have time to do this. I got things to do, blah 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 blah. So they luckily most of them bared with me and rolled along. And it was funny, after like 6 months, I had a couple of them stop me after one of the meetings and say, hey, I just wanted to thank you. And I'm like, for what? And like, well, we thought this was a complete waste of time and we had better things to do. But you didn't hold us against us, and you kept working with us. And now we see that, wow, we've actually got more time to do things because we're focused on, fixing the right things so the program's successful and everything's starting to work correctly. So, thanks for showing us the light. So yeah, detailed schedules, a integrated product team, an action list generated from those weekly or bi-weekly meetings that identify actions that have to be done and have a name beside it of who's going to do it and a date, a suspense date of when that's going to be done. And in some cases, if it's a complex task, that gets tied back into the integrated master schedule and linked, so that if it doesn't happen, if it's going to drive the startup of the program or a key piece of the program that actually moves the schedule, that type of thing. And honestly, it sounds really basic, and at the heart of it, it is, but at the same time, it's difficult.
Well, I can tell you this, it doesn't sound basic to me. I can tell you it does not sound basic to me. And so I appreciate that because I wanted to be able to give people context. One of my goals is really to help make better contractors out here. And talking with people like yourself, my goal is always to let people know what are some of the things that they need to do so that they don't have to pay, they call it the ignorance tax or the dummy tax. It's, so this is very helpful.
Huh? Yeah. I said, I've written a few of those checks.
You written a few of those checks. Exactly. Yeah. So we're trying to help people avoid that at all costs. And really, if we can do that, then someone who's done all these things or who's aware of these things or even know they exist can come to you. And I would say, hey, Darren, look, I heard your interview. I heard what you're saying. I got this, or I don't have these things, but now can you help me set some of this stuff up? And they're aware, right? And that's a better informed customer, a better informed partner, a better informed team player, right?
Right.
I would suspect. And so that's always my goal in doing this and providing information for people. I just want to kind of break it down because I we don't always get a chance to hear this from folks that have done it successfully in the past. So thank you for that. Now, moving forward, so now we have all these things, and you said that the process of getting the actual contracts is fairly easy, and that you can take someone's past performance or past history and write a successful, like, winning proposal to the government. I don't want to misinterpret your words. That's what I heard from my peer review.
If you have the right team to work on it, yeah, you can typically, if you know all the hot buttons to push and what a compliant proposal looks like, you can get them there. The past performance part is tough. Just the way they ask for past performance information, it is very difficult to put all that together in a meaningful way that's easy to read. And one of the things that people have kind of miss on a lot on the past performance side is I find a lot of times they want to cover up the dirty laundry, you know.
Okay.
Oh, how many RFVs did I have? How many failures did I have? You know, it's like a lot of times I get, oh, we really don't have information. And I'm like, yeah, you probably do. Well, like why do we want to why do we want to publish that? And I'm like, well, I'm like, unless the government just absolutely wants to give you this work, whoever they have on their side that is going and reviewing this whole past performance thing, they're going to pull your records out of their system. And they're going to see that you had 4 failures. They're going to see that you had to ask for 3 variances, you know, because maybe your material wasn't correct or something like that. And if you don't address it, then they're just going to put it on your scorecard and it's going to be a big X against you. Now, if you address it up front and you list it, but you also put a explanation behind it of what happened, why it happened, and what you did to fix it, then you can take a negative and at least turn it into a neutral. I've seen in some scenarios where it's actually a positive. You know, we had this problem, it was identified, we caught it, we took these steps to address it, fix it, and it's never happened again. That can actually be evaluated as a positive. But if you do the bare minimum on the past performance, which happens a lot because it is difficult the way it's formatted, the way they ask for the information, then typically you just get bad marks across the board.
Wow. No, I like that perspective of reversing the equation because people see it as, like you said, it's a negative, it's going to hurt us. And so they don't want to show that. They want to show only the positive light.
Well, the funny part about past performance, a lot of times being the incumbent is a massive negative because you're the only one that has been doing this work. And, you know, the government's TDP, it might not be like 100% correct and up to speed. You know, you can actually bid on something and take the technical data package and go do things exactly the way it says, and it won't work. And you have to find, you know, where the issues are and help fix and change and update some things. If you're the only one, and caveat the whole TDP discussion, sometimes shit is just hard to build.
That's true. Hey, I like that. Right. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
What I always told people on the manufacturer side, and this is the conversation I always had with my government IPTs, is that if you are in manufacturing, if you're actively producing, building, delivering something, you are going to have problems. That is just a fact of life. Now, how you identify, how you fix, and how you move forward is the difference between a bad program and a good program, a bad company and a good company. And yes, there are things that you can do to minimize failures and issues, but bottom line, I don't care if you are a absolute subject matter expert at producing X widget. If you do it long enough, something wrong is going to happen.
Right.
It's just a matter of time. So remind me, where were we going with that conversation?
Well, so we were first talking about winning the proposals, and then you went into the past performance. We are going through how to win them,
So the
right?
incumbent thing,
And then you talk
being
about the
the
incumbent as a massive negative about the TDP.
is difficult on past performance because you've got all of this past performance data. And, if you build 20 lots of something over a year and you have 3 failures, you run the math on that. That doesn't really look good. And then you have brand X over here, who is the new company coming in, trying to compete for your business that you've been the incumbent on, and they have some capabilities. They have some good people. They write a really good proposal. You get matched up, with your quality, your production, your program management sections of your proposal. And if you can, even though you're the incumbent, you do it. So that piece should be easy. We already do this. So this is how we do it. But you have another company come in that's never done it before. It did similar things. So all they have to do is say, oh, well, we know how to do X, Y, and Z. This is how we would do it. So typically you get evaluated the same on those parts of the proposal.
Mm.
So the next two things that are really going to be looked at are the past performance and price. Well, on the past performance, if you've never built that before, if you really don't have any programs that are comparative that they can pull from, then the worst you're going to get is a neutral. But if you're the person that has been producing it and you had some issues, you could come up with a negative on your past performance.
Interesting.
So it can be a hindrance, which is why you need to go through the pain of answering what went wrong and why and how and what you did to fix it, so that you can come out at least at a neutral.
I like it. That's great. That's good stuff. So now, as you know, we've delved into this. When now that you've got all this tons of experience, and I see obviously you're showing your expertise in this. What are some of the things that you take businesses through when you're like onboarding them and they've decided to come work with you, right? What are some of the things that you're taking them through?
It varies a lot from business to business.
Okay.
Depending on what they already have in place and what their needs are. The perfect scenario on our end, they have program management. They know who they want to be when they grow up. They just need some help finding, additional business, expanding, growing. They already have a good business development team engaged, and so that's the best scenario on our part. And from that, we typically come in and help them generate some new marketing material that may be targeting an adjacent market that they want to get into. We typically generate marketing cards, which are like a index card size thing. On the front of it, it's got the company logo and maybe a few things they produce. On the back, it goes into some detail regarding the different areas and whatnot that they work in. And those are great for us because as we go out and do office visits, or we go to different conferences and symposiums and whatnot, that makes for an easy introduction. If we're going to walk up to, say, a General Dynamics and say, hey, we've got a company that should be helping you with this, being able to hand them that, them look at it, flip it over, it's got a QR code, it takes them directly to the website. That goes a long way towards getting the conversation started.
Gotcha.
So we initially start that for us, but what we found is once the companies get them developed, and they're like constantly calling us going, hey, can we order some more of these? Because they are handing them out like crazy. Their people start using them to do introductions and whatnot. So that would be the first step. It also helps us better understand who we're dealing with, what they do and how. We found in a lot of instances that going through that scenario, it kind of helps some companies better understand who they are or who they want to be, type thing. Another key piece of it, the fact I told you that there's a QR code that takes anyone to their website.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next piece that kind of helps us engage with the company's websites. We have ran into a few that the website wasn't functional, or when you went to it, it really wasn't what you wanted to see. And we're like, yeah, we really need to help you fix that before we go and start talking to people.
Right.
Because when we approach someone, if they don't know you or your company at all, the first thing they're going to do, especially if they have one of these cards, is go to your website.
Sure.
And if the website doesn't tell an appealing story, then they're not going to do business with you unless you absolutely have something that they have to have. And that typically is not the scenario. So I've kind of left out a key piece of the DKW business up to this point. And that is my daughter actually works with me. And she does my marketing and branding.
Okay.
So she does the marketing and branding for my company. And she's the one that generates all these marketing cards.
Okay.
And I say in 50% of the cases, she actually helps the clients, and to completely dumb it down, fix their websites. Come up with something that's more appealing. And that can either be, directly engaging her doing it herself hands-on, or working with whatever company they have managing the websites, which is funny. That's a lot of what we've run into in the past. Companies have another company hired to manage the work on the website, but there's a communication breakdown. The website company's like, well, I want to fix it, but I keep asking them for stuff and they never give it to me, or I ask for this and they give me this, or the website company's like, no, I know what you need, and they go off and work on something. The other business gets frustrated. So we kind of help bridge that gap on the communication piece to help them fix their website. So marketing cards, understand who they are, fix the website so that it's presentable. The next piece would be going into I'd call it maybe some targeted PowerPoints for specific customers. We know we want to go talk to so-and-so. Well, they don't care that you do these two things. So let's build something specifically geared towards what they are interested in. So we do that piece, and then either take them in to see the prospective clients or do an initial visit on our own to talk with them, to fill them out, to see how receptive they would be to having new business come in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like a whole one piece, one segment of it.
Sure.
Another piece is actively using tools to go find new opportunities.
Okay.
And that can be as simple as Sam.Gov searches.
Sure.
But we also, I pay for access to Stasis, which I can't remember what that stands for off the top
That's
of my
okay.
head. It's basically a company that has a massive search engine that
Yeah.
tons of data if you have time to go through and mine it and pull it out.
Never heard of it before, actually.
Yeah, I hadn't either up until like a year ago, and I was with a client and he pulled out some GWAS information, and I was like, "Where did you get that from?" He's like, "Oh, it's out of Dasis." It was really good stuff, but you have to have time, to dig into it and engage. So, I wrote it down, went and did some research, and
How do you spell it?
DACIS.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
Well, in just a second, I'll tell you actually what it is.
Stasis Defense Aerospace Competitive Intelligence Service. Does that sound right?
Yep.
That's a lot
So
of
it's
data.
got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 modules that you can pull from. And luckily, a lot of them are somewhat tied together. So you do a search in one segment, and then it gives you 4 or 5 other drop downs. Like, hey, you can go look over here at this other information. It also has all the DoD budget information in it, and I think that goes back like 15 years. So I know I used to always go to one specific site and I'd go download the massive PDF, that had all the information in it. Well, now I just go click on this magic DoD button and type in what I'm looking for, and it pulls all that information for me. So I use this. My daughter actually has a more, say, user friendly. It comes out in a different way. A system called GovTribe
Yep.
that she uses. And between these two and Sam, we use that to help pull opportunities for
Okay.
clients and feed it over to them and say, hey, if you thought about looking at this, these are different areas, different opportunities. It's interesting. A lot of times when we engage in a client on the front end, they're like, no. We already have people to do that. We've got that covered. It's typically people that have like 6, 7 other jobs
Right.
that are looking for that type of information. Since
Sure.
we are like fully engaged all the time and looking for opportunities for multiple companies, we do it every day. So even the companies say, no, I don't need that, I'll pull information and send it over to them. And you'd be amazed how many times it's like, yeah, we never saw that. We were looking for that, but it never came up. Well,
Right.
The whole Sam.Gov thing is not the easiest to use. So if you're not subscribing to, and like this software I use, if you go with all the modules, it is not cheap.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's expensive, but I get my money's worth out of it. So there's that piece as far as searching opportunities, but then a next level we'll take and put a spreadsheet together of, like, say the top 10. These are top 10 things you should be looking at. And on the spreadsheet, we'll have listed out, who the incumbents are, when we think the next RFP is going to come out, who the customer is, key contacts, maybe even some pros, cons listed at that. So that's the higher level piece of
Sure.
it. And then we'll take and sit down with a client and say, okay, out of this, what do you think is a good fit? And they'll typically go in and pick 2, 3, 4 things out. From that, we'll take and do a deep dive that's anywhere from a 10 to a 20-page PowerPoint that goes and pulls the history of the program, you know, what's been bought the last 5, 10 years, who the incumbents are, what their strengths are, their weaknesses, and somewhat put a game plan together of, okay, if this is something you think you want to do, these are the steps that we need to start working on right now so that you're in a position to win this business next year, 2 years down the road. I've got some, honestly, that we're looking at that are 3 to 4 years out. And when you look at it on the front end, people are always like, that's a long time from now. I'm like, yeah, but you'd be amazed how fast that time goes.
Right.
Especially if it's something that you've never done before. You know, there's a lot of talking and a lot of key actions that need to take place in order to be ready for this thing when it comes out.
No, that makes sense. No, that's again more of giving perspective to people on the outside looking in of how much goes into this.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's amazing. Let's change the subject a little bit. What I was actually browsing while you were talking on your LinkedIn profile. I think I found your daughter. It wasn't too hard to find, but I noticed some of the conferences and events. Something Westcom Defense. So what are some of the conferences and events that you're planning on attending this year? Or let's say in the past years that you've attended that you found helpful or beneficial for your particular market and space.
I'm gonna pull it up so I don't lie to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
We've got a spreadsheet that I think it's got like right at 100 things listed on it now.
100 things.
Yeah, but not we don't do 100. This is.
But it's got 100 events on there.
Yeah. These are one of the other things that you get when you work with us.
Okay.
We're we're a member of the Navy League, AUSA. I need to look at the website so I don't freaking, because there's a lot of stuff. Where did it go? I got too many windows open now. All right. So if you flip over under collaborations on our website, we're in AUSA, NDIA, Surface Navy, Navy League. We're in a lot of consortiums that work with OTAs, other transactional authorities.
Yep.
A different color of money.
Yeah. But I'd love to see some of those lists of consortiums that work with OTAs.
Okay. So
but that's afterwards.
Okay.
It's on your website you're sharing?
Yeah.
Send a link in the chat for me.
Now you're gonna make it complicated.
I hold on, wait. All right, hold on, wait. I think I have it. I think someone from my team sent it over. I know they did. Like I said, I restarted my computer for this thing. Got started. No worries. I'll get it for you.
All right. I think I just sent it to you.
Yes, sir. I have it. Ah, wow. Okay, I see it. You're part of everything.
And that's not all of them. We've got like 3 or 4 additional ones in the last month. But that is a whole nother world. It used to be, the buzzword used to be DOTSI, which was Defense Ordnance Technology Consortium. That's how it all kind of started. And now there are a gazillion spinoffs of this thing that all fall under what they call OTAs, which most of it is managed by ATI, which I'm throwing them massive buzzwords out. But if you look at it, we're in the Marine Machinery Association, American Society of Naval Engineers, Florida Defense Contractors Association. We're part of the DOTSI. We track the SBIRS, the Small Business Innovation Research. So we're members of all these organizations, and we constantly get inundated with conferences, industry days, and on that note, for companies out there interested in the defense world, if you see opportunities to go and attend industry days, I highly encourage it. The big symposiums and shows are great. You get to run into a lot of people and whatnot. But those industry days are where you sit down and basically get briefed by the government on this is our program, this is where it's going, this is what we intend to do. And so that is one good thing. And you get opportunities for one-on-one to sit down and talk with them. And I mean, even if you don't have something to offer right now, if it's something that you're looking into, if you think you got a capability that fits, they're more than happy to sit down and talk with you about what you do and maybe introduce you to another prime or another company that you should be working with, which is the other thing about going to these industry days. You can get in there and you can look around the room, you know, you have time to mingle, and that is all your competition or companies that you should be partnering with, working with in different fields. Like say medium caliber, we just went to one couple of weeks ago that was, I think it was called Advanced Demolition Industry Day, which was focused on the entire U.S. Army portfolio of demolitions. So anyway,
We were talking
full
about the
circle.
events. Yeah.
Yeah, full circle to the event. So yeah, we have about 100 listed, and we
Wow.
go through and we'll color code them, the ones that yeah we are definitely going to, because we have some repeats that we hit all the time. We usually try to mix 5 or 6 new ones in a year, just to get out and see something different, you know, different people. Then we have ones that, yeah, we'd like to go, but there's probably a scheduling conflict, or we went last year, we don't know if we're going to go back. And then we have some that are just, we keep on the list so that just in case brand X company shows up and said, hey, you know, we work in this market, we're interested in so and so. So we take and we'll take this list and customize it and break it down for clients and say, okay, this is where you should be going. This is who you should be talking to. And a lot of times use that to coordinate taking clients with us to these different events. A lot of times a client will hire us and, you know, they say we're small and we want you to go do all this stuff for us, which, you know, we will do. But I always highly encourage the client to at least attend a few things, because it's one thing for DKW to be standing in front of a prime or the government and saying, hey, you should be working with so and so. It's another thing for us to be standing there and have so and so standing next to us and say,
Right.
hey, we want to introduce you to this company. You know, this is what they do. This is what we think the synergies are. This is what, you know, this is the good fit. Kind of helps, you know, take it to the next level. We also like to go to conferences that our clients are exhibiting at and just spend half a day at their exhibit with them, listening to the interaction and watching people come by. Or if we know it's going to happen, we'll coordinate with the government or the other companies should be talking to them and say, hey, why don't you come by, you know, have a meeting, have a talk, you know, see firsthand what this is about. What we found is you learn a hell of a lot standing there listening to what they say. Because we've had clients that we worked with for a year. We've been to their facility 4 times. We've helped them upgrade their website, marketing material, whole 9 yards. And we know what they do. And we'll go to a conference and spend a day on their booth with them, listen to them interact with customers and potential customers. And at the end of the day, we're like, wow, now we really know what you do. It's just a different type of interaction, different type of interface.
I like
So
that.
you were wanting to know some of the shows, right?
Yes.
So ones that I would definitely recommend if you're looking to go in the defense sector, specifically around Army, Navy. There's AUSA Global Force, which is in Huntsville in March. Navy Sea Air Space, that's in National Harbor in April. A conference called International Soft Week, that's in Tampa, that's in May. So if you got any interest in working with the special operations community, that is the one that you want to go to. They will all be there along with all the other companies. Eurosatori, which is in Paris, France. There's two really large international conferences. Well, there's several, but there's two key ones, and they happen every other year. So this year is Eurosatori in Paris. Next year, it will be something called DSEI that's in London. Those are two key ones that all of the defense community will come together at. And one of the other key ones in the U.S. that happens every year is called AUSA in October.
Wow, I see it. Eurosatori, Paris.
So I think I traveled 40 weeks out of the year last year.
Wow.
I think my daughter did like 34. Took her to a lot of things with me last year. And the plan was that in year 3, we'd start to divide and conquer, which we did in January. I was at a conference in New Jersey at Picatinny Arsenal. She was at a Fuse IPT in Tyson's Corner in DC. So get a little additional coverage for clients that way when necessary.
Wow. No, listen, this is great. I would definitely love to see that list after, offline. I want to see, and then even, how you come up with that list because, again, like my area of focus is construction, and so we're part of several organizations, but not to that. I'm sure there's a lot more things that we could be attending and doing, and I'm maybe probably you've accumulated this list over time, right? So I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. Yeah, you just kept adding on, tracking it.
Well, I had a decent sized list from before I ran my company when I was, working in the industry for someone else. And so I had a decent list to start with that I brought with me. But then as we started adding clients and we started joining all these additional consortiums, it just
expanded.
So I was like, yeah. So I probably get at least 2 emails a week that I forward on to my daughter and say, hey, add this to the list. No, we're not going, but it's on a list. It's something good to keep up with.
It's on a list. So as we're nearing our time, right, tell us something that you like about what you do.
The biggest thing is just seeing these companies be successful. Watching that growth, seeing what could be, and then seeing that come to fruition. That's probably the biggest thing. It's also entertaining watching my daughter start to step into this business and grow, and watching those interactions, and looking back, hindsight. Oh, I remember when I was young and learning all this from the beginning. So it's
sure. Well, that's interesting. If you weren't doing this, what do you think you'd be doing?
That's a hard one. Honestly, if I wasn't running this business, I would be working for a mid-sized defense company doing their business development, marketing, and sales.
Okay, that makes sense. Any odd jobs that you had that you want to share? Odd place you've worked before? It could be also the environment.
Well, there was Iraq.
I would say that's odd, but a lot of people have been in Iraq. So I guess maybe something specifically about Iraq.
Well, we were advisors. So we actually lived on Iraqi bases in the barracks with the soldiers. And it was like 10 of us and 800 of them.
Wow.
And if you were gonna do it correctly and it was gonna be successful, it could not be an us and them. You had to build one cohesive team that was working together and had each other's back. And I saw many teams while we were over there that always kept the us and them mentality, and they were never successful. So you had to fully integrate in order to make it work.
Nice. Nice. And then what would you tell small businesses that are not in this marketplace that are thinking about getting into the government contracting space? What would you tell them?
That's a loaded question.
It is. It's a, it's a great way to close out.
It's not easy, but it's good work. And it usually has a higher purpose on the other end of it, because from our standpoint, typically the end user of all these items and articles and systems that we are selling are the soldiers and the sailors and the people out, helping defend the country. And a lot of them find themselves in interesting situations not of their choosing. So if you want to get in a position to help make a small difference, it's a good area to do it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Darren, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time today, sharing all your experience and wisdom. Like I said, hopefully with this, people can reduce the checks they write for the ignorance tax. So that's what I was, meant to accomplish, and that's always our goals in doing these things. And so I appreciate you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.